My name is Courtney Gray, and I'm currently the Director of Trauma Response and Recovery in the Office of Public Health Preparedness in Boston Public Health Commission. What we do in this office is we try to take care of and prepare systems and services for any sudden shocking event, from the very big events, the natural and man-made disasters such as the marathon bombing, but also for the micro singleton incidents that might happen in neighborhoods and communities, some of them with a very high number of these incidents, such as car accidents, homicides, suicides, even robberies. In our city, we might have as many as 22,000 of those in 1 year, largely concentrated in certain neighborhoods. So we prepare systems for responding to that. Much like an EMT would show up at a location to help deal with a physical injury, we take care of the psychosocial impacts of such events. When we talk about resilience, we're saying, and it might be a technical definition of resilience that says, your ability to return to normalcy after sustaining some kind of shock, some kind of traumatic. Think of a piece of wood that you can bend and then it comes back to its original shape. And I think people have some natural ability for that, and then there are systems needed in place to help promote that. My body's resilient from falls, but there's a certain kind of fall where I might break my leg. And the system of emergency medicine allows someone to arrive and help me out, and they can take me someplace where I can get that leg repaired. I think that's an agency example of promoting resilience so that I stay functional and able to survive life. Then there's also a term that people don't speak about a lot, except in disaster preparedness, which is resistance. So there's a way you won't even make the piece of wood bend at all. And often after people have received services and had their resiliency built up, the next similar exposure does not actually bend them. Hope and healing can be kind of difficult depending on almost like where you live, basically. So or what ethno-cultural background you come from. And also what your belief systems are. I'll start off by saying I think faith has a lot to do with people's hope before the incident comes. So I used to call it hope on steroids. So beyond whatever the data looks like in front of me, I still have hope because I believe in something stronger, something bigger. Those people tend to see, just in what I'll call my programmatic experience, not any academic research, those people tend to they fare better after incidents. That hope is a very important piece. So in a lot of cases, people might have experiences where they just don't have hope, and you find that they struggle more. They won't access what hope does for a person in order to recover. So when we bring people back to normalcy, we find that normalcy wasn't really that good in the first place. They might have been battling homelessness already. They might have been bullied in their neighborhoods and so forth. So what we find is that there's a hope that somebody might have, and then in working with people and serving them, that we have to create measures that build people's hope back so that we can get to the healing. We've taken a sort of a system strategy at first, not even an individual school. The system strategy is this ideology that we together are responsible for the same cohort of people we're trying to take care of. So we have 56,000 families worth of school connections, and we want to take care of them not just from 7:30 till 2:15 or 2:30 in the afternoon, but also for what happens in their lives and that affect how they present at school the next day. So there's a very interactive relationship, and especially around traumatic incidents. So that's system-wide. In our district, there's a little bit of autonomy among schools and say high schools and middle schools for the principal or headmaster to design services for their own school and sort of be the incident commander for things. So that would require the schools also have that same kind of culture. And then there is intensive community partnerships built between the school and the neighborhood in which it sits. And of course the agencies that are citywide that support, so that we again collectively living at the same cohort. When it comes to the community, that also means community leaders that already have long-standing relationships and trust with the residents and the students. So that as a whole is important. Each school having its own community partnerships that are touching the same kids. It could be basketball, it could be even behavioral health. Any kind of leadership development programs and youth development programs having a deep relationship with the school. and that they are in concert such that the student thinks of the basketball coach, the swimming coach, the art instructor, and their guidance counselor and student support and dean of students in their school are all part of their support structure. Then there's a part about specific behavior of staff. We need to focus on promoting this concept where we stop asking people what's wrong with them and start asking what happened to them. Most people are trying to live a healthy life, even kids are trying to be good. If they're subjected to certain stressors and have to exhibit a certain behavior in school, we don't create the culture of what's wrong with you. We might be able to, with some level of certainty, be able to say something might have happened that triggered that, or some phenomenon might be happening in their life that causes this. We want to produce fully functional humans that are prepared to deal with the expectations of life. We'd have to produce them not only to handle the academic challenges, but also to manage the challenge of the death of a parent, or a relationship gone bad, or even depression, because we know what they're going to be faced with.
As part of my journey through grief, I met other survivors of suicide, and I finally found people who knew what I was going through. As I listened to their stories, it normalized everything I was feeling: the anger, the helplessness, and the guilt. Even not knowing all the facts that surrounded by my brother's death wasn't an uncommon thing to experience. I felt better to know that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't the only one who had managed to survive the unimaginable. I've learned so much about suicide, depression, and the isolation that comes along with it. I miss Michael every day, but I strive to have a life that has meaning so I can make a difference in others' lives, the way others have done for me. Grief after suicide is a difficult road to walk, but it's a little bit easier when you have someone to walk beside you.
I'm Brian Douglas, and I'm here to talk about my daughter Karen and why it is I have such respect and encouragement for mental health professionals. I'm fortunate and grateful for having had the opportunity to spend 18 years and a month with my beautiful daughter Karen Elena Douglas. Karen's mother and I separated when Karen was just under a year old, and Karen's older sister, Sonia, was almost 3. Nonetheless, the girls' mom and I worked together to bring them up, coordinating schedules far beyond the usual 2 nights per week and every other weekend common in situations like this. So life was pretty typical for Karen early on, including preschool and kindergarten locally, and then when an international job opportunity came up for her mother, she, her mom, and her sister moved to Costa Rica for close to 2 years, with my blessing and a promise to visit regularly, which I did. After returning to the U.S., Karen Douglas did many of the things girls do: school, soccer, basketball, drama workshop, and in 2008, when her mom remarried, as I had 2 years before, they moved to Newton. Leela and I continued co-parenting, and everything seemed to be going great until a morning in January 2011 when Karen, then a freshman at Newton North High School, was found at home early on a school day, having made what would later be described as a classic cry for help. Though it took a great deal of time and a couple of hospital stays, what surfaced was an eating disorder, bulimia specifically. And what ensued was an inpatient program followed by searches for therapists, nutritionists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and then in spring of Karen's junior year, an intensive outpatient program. An IOP that was extremely family-centered and in which we all participated. Despite struggles in recovery and the seemingly endless cycle of 2 steps forward and 1 step back, progress was evident, and Karen appeared to me to have a good understanding of both the mental and physical aspects of her condition. By the beginning of her senior year, I wouldn't have said we were out of the woods yet, but we certainly had come a long way in that direction. That is why it was even more heartbreaking for me when we finally confirmed, after 2 agonizing days of searching, posting flyers, and brainstorming, that Karen had taken her own life in an unmistakably deliberate act that she thoroughly planned. So what have I done that has helped me to accept and adjust to this new reality as both a suicide survivor and as the father of a suicide survivor? Well, my wife Sandy has been incredibly supportive, compassionate, and patient with me, especially in the immediate aftermath, and I'm an active member of my church, also a source of strength and support. Fellowship, I've found, is an essential part of traversing any tragic life event, and one place I've found that fellowship is the Samaritans' Safe Place groups. Being familiar with recovery and how it works, I was already open to the idea of sharing my experience with others who were basically in the same boat, to see how they got through and continue to get through what's been the most difficult aspect of my life. When someone can look you in the eye and honestly say, "I know how you feel, I've been there too," it can melt the anger, the sense of detachment, or whatever overwhelming emotion is getting in the way of just feeling human. I was fortunate that a good friend of mine, also a survivor, put me in touch with the director of grief support services at Samaritans, who took the time to speak with me at length, sharing her experience and providing me with the meeting schedules. I continue to attend meetings about once a month and truly appreciate the atmosphere of trust, where there's a feeling of safety to say anything without fear of it sounding crazy, and the confidence it will remain within those four walls. That allows me to help others and be helped by others who share the same circumstance. And it's that human interaction that has helped me the most. So I believe it's imperative that professionals in this field continue their life-saving work and to push toward changing that mindset of stigmatization of mental illness and its treatment. Karen saw many mental health professionals during the time she suffered with bulimia, depression, and anxiety. And they and Karen worked very hard at her recovery. I'm convinced that bought us additional time, perhaps years with Karen. And while I'll always love and miss Karen, I'll always be grateful for every day of her life. Life is a gift. Each day is a gift.
Once again, inhale the fresh air of stale smoke seeping through your skin. Exhale the fog of death escaping you once again. Once again, faced with recycled air, unknowing if you want to take another breath of that stale smoke. Cough out the exhale, gasp for that escape. My name is Susan, and I'm a suicide attempt survivor. I attempted when I was 16 years old. I was struggling a lot with medical conditions and depression and anxiety, and the stress of getting diagnosed with colitis matched with already having depression threw me into a spiral. I have a good family, I had friends, but sometimes that's just not enough when you're struggling with suicidal feelings. I would wake up and think about it, go to school and think about it, and my grades were fine still, and no one really noticed much of a difference in me, but it was killing my concentration. Didn't want to go out. I turned to drugs and alcohol, and that did not help at all. I thought it would, felt like it at the time, but eventually when I decided to stop doing the drugs and not drink as much, I started feeling my feelings again. And that really catapulted myself into planning and executing an attempt. Gasping and gripping onto the fresh air, it may not last so long. Escaping once again, different this time. Clear lungs breathe in recycled air, push out every last molecule of ancient history, gasping in each atom of futuristic hope. Once again, not so futuristic. Heart beating and lungs breathing, once again while at work. Brain thinking, liver filtering, skin screaming, once again. The counselor at the school, I was not receptive at all. I was stubborn, but she was really, really positive with me. She's like, "Alright, I'm gonna tell it to you straight. This is how it is. Like, I'm not dumb, you're not dumb. Like, what's going on? What can I do?" And so I had the opportunity to just, instead of freaking out in class, going to the bathroom having a panic attack, I could go see her and be like, "Hey, 5 minutes?" And sometimes that's all it takes. It's 5 minutes of her time, and she made my entire day, at least at school, manageable. Just have a safe place to go. Let kids know if you're feeling suicidal right now, this is a person you can talk to. That's a person you can talk to. Screaming at hope, not so distant. Smothering brainwaves, sound waves, is just a sign, coefficient to make every distance tessellate. From that wrinkle in your frown, filtered into a half-hearted smile, that glimmer in your eyes, ready to inhale the truly fresh air. Exhale silent screams, ready to inhale, once again. I'm standing here, I'm doing this. I look forward to recovery and just getting better. And I'm graduating in May and walking, and I'm so excited to have my gown and my cap. I recently got accepted into Lesley University, into the Expressive Arts Therapy and the LMHC program, and that will start in the fall. My life is coming together so wonderful like that. I never thought I was going to graduate. I started college my senior year of high school so I could just move out and not go to school. And that was 2008, and I'm finally getting it, and it's such a wonderful feeling inside. There's just so many people that support me. Obviously, Heather, my godson, my family. Things are going really well with them. I have a boyfriend now. I didn't think that was ever going to happen again. And I want to work on an inpatient psych unit for kids and adolescents. And hopefully help me's, little me's, every day. I'm just, once again, even further. And so it's sort of become a little mantra in my mind. Once again, I'm like, okay, I can do this. I've done it before. I'll do it again.